Hello everyone, welcome to another Kerbal Space Program 2 video, and we start in the tracking station, time warping to a Kerbin Eeloo transfer window. Yes, if you draw a line from Kerbin to the Sun to Eeloo, the angle that line forms at the Sun should be around 101 degrees, with Eeloo being ahead of Kerbin. So if you imagine it's like a clock, it's like 3 o'clock with the big hand on Eeloo and the little hand pointing towards Kerbin. You get the idea. That's the Eeloo transfer window. And why are we going to Eeloo? Well, I asked you guys on my YouTube community tab. I put a little poll out saying, hey, I'm thinking about going to Eeloo or Moho. Which would you like to see? I feel like those are two interesting destinations. And now that interplanetary missions are theoretically much easier because of the new Kerbal Space Program 2 patch, I'd like to go interplanetary. Where should I go? And literally, the overwhelming majority of you voted for Eeloo. Like, it wasn't even close in the slightest. What was the vote? Yeah, Moho got 13% of the votes, and Eeloo got 87% of the votes. I just now realised I didn't read any of the comments. What are the top comments? Not sure if the first option is Moho or Tylo. Oh no. Have you thought about doing a KSP1 series with outer planets? Oh no, it's just things I don't know. But one commenter did say Eeloo has a ton of really cool features in Kerbal Space Program 2. And I'll tell you what, guys, I hadn't really looked into Eeloo before going there. Obviously, I know what Eeloo is. Yeah, I've played Kerbal Space Program 1 a couple of times, you might say. So I'm aware that Eeloo is kind of an interesting challenge because it's the furthest planet from the Sun. It's the analogue of Pluto, which is, you know, a very cool destination, metaphorically and literally, because it's the furthest planet from the Sun. So that'll be an interesting place to go to. And let me tell you guys, when I was filming this mission, it was really great. I'm really loving playing Kerbal Space Program 2. Don't get me wrong, there's loads and loads of bugs in this video, and it did make playing the mission a little bit painful, but it's really reignited the spark I felt playing Kerbal Space Program 1 for the first time, because I didn't really look into any of the planets and moons before I went to them for the first time. Like, I knew a couple of things, like I knew Lathe was an ocean moon and stuff, but other than that, I didn't really look into anything. Just like how I didn't talk about any of the vessel construction here. All very basic and self-explanatory, I hope. I added those green scaffold pieces because the prototypes of this vessel just wobbled themselves to pieces, so I had to add those green scaffolds. But let us just now bask in the sound of that launch. I will never tire of the sound design in this game, and I guess this is coming from my perspective, where I'm at a kind of a disadvantage compared to, well, I guess disadvantage is the wrong word, right? But I'm like coming from a weird perspective where I don't even get to hear the music in this game, because when I'm making these videos, I speed the footage up. I mean, I've got the FPS now in the top left-hand corner of the screen because I got comments accusing me of being dishonest or trying to paint the game in a better light. Like, I've been very critical of this game ever since I started making videos of it. But people say, like, oh, you're speeding up the footage, you're like masking your frames. So there you are. There, are you happy now? The frame rate is there. But yeah, I've sped the footage up just to kind of make the video flow a little bit better. But as I was saying, I don't really get to enjoy a lot of this game's strongest sound design aspects, because a lot of the sound design for me playing this game, when I first started playing it, I had the music enabled and stuff, and my goodness, the orchestral music and how it dynamically changes depending on your situation. And I've heard most of the planets have got their own unique themes. It's like really cool and motivational. I don't get to experience that because, again, I speed the footage up, and for things like rocket sounds and like the Kerbal chit chat and stuff, it's fine. But as soon as there's music, you speed it up, and it's a very distracting noise in the background. You can't quite make out the music. It doesn't really work. So I just play without the music. That's why I tend to add like my own ambient soundtrack to these videos. At the moment, I've just been using the Kerbal Space Program 1 soundtrack. Basically, I created this MP3. I basically took all the Kerbal Space Program 1 music tracks that play when you're in space. I think there's like, I don't know, like 6 or 7. I have no idea. It's just that sort of number, tracks that play when you're in space. I dropped them all into one single audio file, mixed them together, made sure like the volume was about the same across all of those tracks, got it all normalized, and then I just drag and drop that and put it into my videos now. And I thought about doing something similar for Kerbal Space Program 2, but because of Kerbal Space Program 2's dynamic soundtrack and stuff, and I haven't really looked into the fact of, whether or not the KSP2 soundtrack is safe for streaming, like with all the rights and stuff. I don't know. I'm assuming it is. Most video game soundtracks are, and KSP2 soundtrack is backed by a major publisher, so I would assume it's all okay, but I don't know. But maybe. But what do you guys think? A lot of people have responded quite positively to my use of the Kerbal Space Program 1 soundtrack in my Kerbal Space Program 2 videos. Like, yeah, it's a little bit of nostalgia. So, do you guys enjoy the Kerbal Space Program 1 music? Should I mix things up a little bit? I have been using a lot of Approaching Nirvana in the intro segments of these videos, try and keep things a bit more, I don't know, exciting. Like, oh, I've never heard this song before. I have no idea. It's funny, the guy who, behind Approaching Nirvana actually emailed me not that long ago saying, oh, thank you for, using my music and stuff. I was going through the comment sections of one of my videos, and a lot of people were talking about a video you made called Into the Warp. So I checked it out, and I noticed you used a lot of my music, and yeah, it was a really nice little back and forth conversation, because I found out about Approaching Nirvana when I was a young'un watching Minecraft build time lapse in, I want to say 2010, 2011. I was how old was I in 2010? 16, I think. At the time, believe it or not, Minecraft was this really niche, nerdy game. When I found someone who played Minecraft, I was like, oh my gosh, you play Minecraft? They're like, you've heard of Minecraft? And I'm like, I've heard of Minecraft. And I have this big thing oh, Minecraft. And now it's everyone plays Minecraft. You go to Tesco, you go to any old shop. Tesco's Walmart. It's not like Walmart. I have no idea. I don't know what the American analog is, but it's just a major supermarket, grocery store in the UK, and you go there and you can buy the Minecraft books and stuff. Where was I even going with this? I'm meant to be doing a commentary about Kerbal Space Program, but here I am trying to make a maneuver node to get to Eeloo. I love the Swerve engine. It's so good. It's really made interplanetary maneuvers a dream. Doing these sorts of maneuvers in Kerbal Space Program 1, even with, 5 nuclear engines, which is what I effectively have with the Swerve engine, I would need to do probably at minimum 2 burns in Kerbin's Sphere of Influence to get my Eeloo trajectory. I was going to say encounter, we don't get an encounter straight away because we're on a bit of an incline, but we'd need to do at minimum 2 burns in Kerbin's Sphere of Influence, one to raise our apogee to just before we leave the Sphere of Influence of Kerbin, and then do another one to get ourselves the rest of the way. Ideally, they would probably do one 500 meter per second burn, another 500 meter per second burn, and then the rest of the burn on the 3rd pass of periapsis. But with the Swerve engine and the fact that hydrogen fuel is not very dense, so it's relatively lightweight compared to your methalox, we got a really, really good thrust to weight ratio now. And this is my first attempt at using this big ball tank. And we've got a ridiculous amount of Delta V. I was amazed by how much Delta V this hydrogen fuel tank actually provides. It's way more than what we need. But I wanted to bring way more than I needed, because history has shown me, if you've watched my Kerbal Space Program 2 videos that came before this one, you'll know that I don't have the best luck when it comes to avoiding the Kraken. I have a lot of issues when it comes to planning maneuvers and then getting home and stuff, so I thought it's better just to bring as much Delta V as possible, just to I got to expect the unexpected. And actually, this mission, there were some hiccups, I'm not going to lie. We did end up needing to use some of our budgeted surplus Delta V reserved for Kraken attacks, but not as much as I've needed to in the past. And one reason why is because, as you can see, I can now see. Guys, I'm weeping as I tell you this. I can now see my trajectory past Eeloo. So I can plan a periapsis that takes me close to Eeloo's surface. So I'm super stoked about that. It makes things so much easier. And it's not even that big of a deal for getting captured around Eeloo, because Eeloo's sphere of influence and gravity well, I guess would be the correct term there, not sphere of influence. Gravity. Eeloo's gravity well, let's start that sentence over again, is very low. So really the O-berth effect is quite minimal. So it's not that big of a deal that we're not circularizing close to Eeloo's surface. Obviously, it is better that we're burning at Eeloo's surface, but it's not as big of a deal as, say, somewhere like, I don't know, Eve, as an extreme example, Or I guess a better example would be something like Juno. Eeloo's sphere of influence is so small, it doesn't really matter where we do our circularization, but it's still very, very nice. But no, as I said, the important thing about being able to see our trajectory past a celestial body is not necessarily getting to Eeloo, though it helps. We've now done this bit, so I'm going to move on. It's getting back to Kerbin. That's the big thing. That was the big thing that held me back getting back to Kerbin from Dres, is that I had I had all the pieces I needed. I had the ship, it had enough Delta V, thermal protection wasn't an issue because there's no heating in this game as of yet, and yeah, I had everything, but I couldn't see my path past Kerbin, so for the life of me I literally could not get home because of that, and now I can. And spoiler alert, we do actually get home in this video in Kerbal Space Program 2. I don't have to switch to Kerbal Space Program 1 like I did with my Dres mission to finish the mission. It all worked out fine, and a big reason why is because we can now see it's basically opened the whole game. The fact that the devs have fixed this bug where we couldn't see our trajectory past celestial bodies. Now that we can, my goodness, I'm not ready for Eve just yet, alright? Because this mission is not completely plain sailing. There is, I guess you could say it's a bit of pain sailing. That was terrible. There was some pain in this mission. A lot of bugs, a lot of glitches, but not as much. They are decreasing gradually, and I'm hoping as more and more patches roll out, things will get better. And I am still, feeding back to the devs saying that these are my bugs and stuff, and I'm going to, send them this video with some timestamp saying, hey, just check out what happens at this point and this point, and, is this helpful? I'll send them the save file as well. So, KSP2 developers, if you're watching, buy my merch, but you're not allowed to wear it. You can't wear this until you finish the game, because, you're meant to be slaying the Kraken here. We had on good faith that you would be slaying the Kraken, and yet here we are, encountering a Kraken bug right here. I was not able to create a maneuver node that circularized around Eeloo. Did you just see what I mean? It's like creates this sort of weird, I don't know, kink in the orbital line, and I couldn't circularize. So I had to just burn retrograde blindly. I couldn't make a maneuver node to do that. So yeah, really weird. Has that happened to any of you guys? It's never happened to me before. I don't know if this is just a new thing that's been introduced with this, new patch, or if this is just a bug that's always been there and I've just been lucky enough to avoid it. Not lucky enough to avoid anything else, but lucky enough at least to avoid that specific bug. I don't know. This is my first time visiting Eeloo in Kerbal Space Program 2, so maybe it's an Eeloo specific thing. That would be weird if it was, but regardless, there is always... I'm a sample size of 1. It's not a big study we're doing here, so we'll have to. I'm eager to hear what the community has to say. But I'm also let me get my words up. I'm also eager to hear what the community has to say about the surface of Eeloo. I think the devs have done a cracking job. I say as we go to the map screen and you can't see anymore, but as we wait for that orbital line to swing around and circularize, there we go. Yeah. I was really hoping we'd cut to the, are we going to move away from the map screen? No? Okay, whatever. I'm just going to tell you. The surface of Eeloo, basically, let's rewind. Let's calm down. Let's take a breather. Okay. When we think about our favourite places to visit in Kerbal Space Program 1, I think a big thing, at least for me, maybe this is a hot take, the Dres Canyon. That was one of the coolest places to visit in Kerbal Space Program 1 because it was such an interesting geographical place to visit. It represented some really cool challenges if you want to put a surface base or a rover down there, and that was really cool. The entire surface of Eeloo in Kerbal Space Program 2 puts the Dres Canyon in KSP 1 to shame. The Dres Canyon in KSP 2 is really, really good. There's 3 of them, and the rest of Dres is really cool. There's some cool mountain ranges, so Dres has made some steps forward, but I still think Eeloo... Look, here we are. We're now off the map screen. You can see those crevices there. They look deep and big from orbit, because they are, and there's going to be some comment saying that's some sort of innuendo. Someone's going to put the Lenny face there, but I'm just saying, let's all act maturely here, okay? They look big and deep from orbit, but when we go down to the surface, they are much bigger in person. I almost got a bit of a megalophobia watching them as I descended down with the lander. Spoiler alert. Here I am, by the way. I'm just sort of, again, this is my first time seeing Eeloo up close. So I was just sort of time warping around in low Eeloo orbits, trying to see if there was anything cool to visit. Like I'm aware with Val, there's the subsurface ocean that I visited. But you guys know that because you've seen the video, right? Right? Maybe there's a card on screen. Hopefully I remember to put one there. But yeah. I was like on the map screen. I haven't shown this because it would have made the video way too long. But I was in the tracking station for a while, just watching my craft warp around the planet. I was looking for anything cool, like a subsurface ocean or some sort of, not monument, but some sort of interesting terrain feature. And I couldn't really see anything other than the canyons you can see before you. So I thought, hey, let's just go down to a canyon. I then ran into this bug where time warp was at 1, but I couldn't stop it. So for the whole descent, I couldn't use physics time warp at all. So I will speed the footage up for you guys. Again, not because I'm being dishonest, but because I care about your time. Your time is valuable to me. So, you know, just saying. That was I have nothing else to add to that. Yeah, so I thought, well, let's just head down to one of these canyons because they seem to be littered around the surface of Eeloo. They're clearly the main selling point of this planet. This is where these are the places to visit. Let's go here. I feel like maybe I'm making a hot prediction here. But I am aware that colonies and resource gathering are a big thing in the final version of KSP2. So maybe, when the game is all out and everything's ready and here, it would make sense to establish a colony on the surface, just like where we've touched down right now. But all the good resources and things, they're down in the canyons. So it's your job as a player and KSP campaign manager to establish some sort of infrastructure that brings resources down from the base of the canyons back up to the surface to feed the colony. It would make an interesting dynamic, I think. You may have noticed on screen, we have a bug. I tried to get, is it Bill Kerman? Yeah, Bill Kerman out on EVA, and he just teleported into the surface of Eeloo. So I thought maybe it's just Bill being Bill. Let's try and get Valentina out on EVA. And as you can see, she's in the same situation. She just teleported into the surface of the planet. So I thought, well, maybe they've just dropped down. Obviously, I'm not justifying this. This is a terrible bug that needs fixing. But I thought, well, maybe they've just dropped down to just below the lander at some weird collision thing or something. So let's just pop her out of the surface. But the lander was nowhere to be seen. And as you can see, we're miles away. I don't know what caused this. My impression of Eeloo when watching it from the map screen is that it doesn't have a vertical axial tilt. So it doesn't orbit around, it doesn't, the center of rotation for the planet isn't straight up, if that makes sense. It's at a tilted orbit, much like our own Earth. And maybe that's glitching it out, because not every planet in KSP2 has a tilted center of rotation. It's only a couple. I know for a fact Dres is one of these. I thought Dres was the only one, but apparently Eeloo might be as well. So maybe that's causing an issue. I don't know. But yeah, I could not get my Kerbals out on EVA for this mission, which is a real shame. I was super excited to plant a flag on the surface of Eeloo, but I guess it was just not to be. And I feel like I'm counting this as a win, as in like I'm landing on Eeloo, and I'm landing in a canyon, as you're now seeing. The sketchiest suicide burn of my KSP career, I think, just there. Just barely killed our velocity in time for touchdown, and it wasn't even a very elegant landing, was it? Luckily, the surface gravity is low enough that we can roll the lander back up. And I also noticed this like little rock, not that one right in front of us, but you'll just see it in just a second over the horizon, like a little sort of icy rock, something. It's nearly, I thought it would come into view sooner. Nearly, wait for it. There it is, that blue rock just there. Thought it was kind of cool, so let's go and land next to it. Of course, it does not have any collision. That is a temporary thing, I'm told. How temporary, I don't know. Truth be told, I think Kerbal Space Program 2 is a long way from being done, like years away from being done. So who knows if and when this is going to gain collision. But for right now, it's quite cool, and maybe it's tied into the whole resource gathering. Like this particular rock can be mined for quartz. Trying to think of a vaguely colored, even though quartz is like white, right? So I don't know what's blue. Copper. It's been a long time since I did A-level chemistry, guys. I still sometimes have those nightmares waking up. I'm thinking like, oh, I had a nightmare where I was meant to be revising for A-level chemistry. I didn't do any revision and my exam was tomorrow, and I wake up thinking, oh, I've got to do A-level chemistry. And then I have to, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm 28. I haven't got to do that anymore. But yeah. By the way, I tried EVAing again. Now we're in the surface of the canyon. Like maybe I touched down in a weird place. So let's try EVAing again. And 'twas not to be. So I gave up on that ambition. So let's just set the orbiting mothership as our target and get back. And as you can see, it disappeared. Yes, that's right. Do you guys remember that like orbits weren't very stable in Kerbal Space Program 2 when it first came out? Like you're in space and your apoapses and periapses are wobbling all around, much like they are right now on screen. That has not been fixed with the latest patch. And it turned out that while I was doing all my lander antics and stuff, my mothership had been gradually deorbiting itself. So I switched, I loaded a quick save, obviously, because it's now back, and I realized, yeah, we're on a collision course with the terrain. So I did a radial outburn to get ourselves on a, non-lethal trajectory, and we'll just recircularize into a safe, stable orbit, and then do our... So yeah, there are still issues with Kerbal Space Program 2. It is not perfect by any means. So, yeah, KSP 1 is still... It's funny. Like, before KSP 2 came out, I was like, KSP 1 is, like, fun, but it's very rough around the edges. Like, it is a bit janky. For basic stuff like MUN missions, it's fine. But when you want to do big stuff, you got to, like, sort of do a bit of fighting against the Kraken. Now I'm like, Kerbal Space Program 1 is the most optimized game ever made. It's more optimized than Microsoft Excel, yeah, it's funny seeing the juxtaposition. And then I thought, whoa, now we've reloaded a quick save, let's try EVing a Kerbal one more time. And yeah, I completely gave up on the idea of getting a Kerbal on EVA at that point. So right, we've landed, we've established that we can, I have the skills as an elite player of KSP. I have the skill to land on Eeloo. A celestial body that only takes about 620 meters per second to land on, so it's not even that difficult. So I'm just saying we got the skills. But hey, I didn't mention the cliffs of this canyon because I was talking about some random rubbish probably whilst it was happening. But yeah, I didn't talk about the cliffs of the canyons when I was doing the initial landing. But yeah, do you get a bit of a sense of megalophobia looking at them? Like, they are gigantic. They really do put even the KSP 2 Dres Canyon to shame. Like, it's really, really cool, and I'd really love to... I'm really excited to visit Eeloo again once I see the inevitable Reddit post where they're like, hey, look at this cool thing on Eeloo, and I'm like, oh great, I would have loved to have known about that yesterday when I filmed this mission, knowing my luck. So yeah, I'm really excited to explore Eeloo again. But yeah, I'm really excited to try out exploring other places. I think stuff like Gilly, Bop, and Pol, I'm alright, because the time warp lock in KSP2 is super obnoxious. Like, oh, I can't time warp past 3 times after a certain altitude. But for things like Eeloo, where, it's a low gravity body, you end up just sitting there waiting for ages, like you're about to see now. I've sped the footage back 10 times faster than normal speed. I was just on my phone this entire time. I was chilling on Reddit and stuff. Just sipping on my nice Tanga. I've still got the can in front of me on the desk right now. This is how you know I'm like running out of things to talk about. Now I start just randomly talking about stuff in front of me. But yeah, I've got my Tanga, just having a sip of that, waiting for the game to allow me to time warp a bit faster. I haven't checked Space Dock since the last patch. I'm hoping that maybe there is a better time warp equivalent mod for KSP2. If not, hopefully one is coming around the corner, because the time warp block is super obnoxious and it's really, really annoying. And it was annoying in KSP 1 as well. But so for things like low gravity bodies, like the aforementioned Bop, Gilly, and Pol, I can't be bothered. It's just so boring waiting for waiting for the craft to drift to a point when you can time warp a bit faster. So I don't know where I'm going to go next. I'm thinking maybe Moho. Although I am doing 2 Kerbal videos a week at the moment, and I feel like for it to be sustainable, one would have to be less ambitious than the other. So this would be, I'd say, an ambitious mission. Maybe not for KSP 1 standards, but for right now in the state of the state that Kerbal Space Program 2 is in, this is kind of a tricky mission, like, contending with the bugs and stuff. There's a lot that has been cut out that you guys didn't see. But yeah, this is kind of ambitious. So maybe like the Wednesday videos could be slightly less not less, I still think there'll be a good quality. Like, I'll be aiming for like high quality stuff and hopefully stuff that's quite challenging, but stuff that's easier for me to produce, like quicker to edit, quicker to film, quicker to iterate the designs and stuff. And then the interplanetary stuff that might take a few more attempts at, getting past bugs and things. They can be the Saturday uploads, or I'll just film whatever I feel like filming, and I'll probably throw in some Kerbal Space Program 1 here and there as well. I've got some ideas for KSP 1 videos. I still want to do an RS1 recreation, which is a really cool rocket that's launching soon by Rocket Factory Olsberg. They actually created their very own mod in KSP 1 to showcase their very real rocket. And they gave me like a Lego set of their rocket as well. So they're great. I've like had interactions with the teams at RFA, and they're really cool. So I would like to make a video showcasing the RS1 at some point. So that's a potential KSP1 video right there. Also, I'd like to recreate that scene in Fast and Furious 9. You know, my favorite automobile documentary, The Fast and the Furious. They made 9 of them now. And if you guys have seen Fast and Furious 9, you know exactly which scene I'm talking about. I'm not going to spoil it in case anyone cares about the deep plot that is the Fast and the Furious franchise. But yeah, that's an idea as well. Anyway, do you guys remember my Val Ocean mission and the fact that when I left Joule's sphere of influence, my orbit around the sun was completely different to what was predicted whilst I was still in Joule's sphere of influence? Well, it appears that that bug is still here. Like, leaving Eeloo's sphere of influence, suddenly the orbit around the sun that I was on was totally different from what was predicted. I burned at Eeloo so that my orbital line around the sun would intersect Kerbin's orbit so that I could then plan a maneuver node just like I was planning just there, so I could get to my Kerbin encounter, and then I had to do a really expensive retrograde burn. So it was really a good thing that I had a lot more delta V than I needed, so I could perform such a burn. So I think going forward, maybe when KSP 2 patch number 2 comes out, things will be different. But for now, you still need to bring a lot more delta V than is required, I think. Anyway, as you might have noticed, I had to load a quick save just there. The reason for that is because SAS just stopped working. The reaction wheels of the vessel, I guess, just stopped responding. And I think this is a known bug. I get a lot of comments from people saying that, oh yeah, now RCS, as in like, the reaction control wheels, the SAS wheels, they're not as powerful as they were in KSP1. And that's by design. The expectation is that now you use monopropellant. And I don't think that's true, because I found that using the big RCS wheels and lots of sufficient electric power, vessels are fairly agile. They're fairly comparable to how they were in KSP1. But sometimes it just stops being the case and you don't get any control. And F5 and F9, quick save, quick load, fixes that. So that's why I did that cheeky quick save, quick load just there, because my vessel just wasn't responding. So yeah, I think it's good to have RCS as a backup, but if you use enough reaction wheels, granted I am adding a lot more reaction wheels than I did in KSP1, so maybe I need to research this more. Maybe someone else has already done the research and I just didn't bother researching their research. I don't know. What's your mileage been like, guys? Have you find reaction wheels are comparable to what they were in KSP1, or do you feel like you're adding more? I don't. Now I'm saying this out loud, I'm doubting my hypothesis. But I feel like, SAS wheels and all that, they're pretty good if you add enough of them. And I think electric charge isn't a thing, is it, in KSP2? Have I just missed that completely? I've been so hooked on I've got to make KSP2 videos. I haven't really been following other people's experiences, but for me, I've never run out of electricity, and I feel like it was it Tim Dodds? Was he doing a stream or just no, it was Stratzenblitz, yeah. I hopped on Stratzenblitz's live stream when he was prototyping his Joule 5 mission. A lot of people were saying, oh yeah, electric charge isn't a thing, and I'm like, I hadn't heard of that. But maybe, I guess it is. I guess it isn't, because my electricity never runs out, it seems. But I'm still adding things like RTGs, solar panels, and batteries, because it's good to get into the habit of doing that before all of this gets added for real, and then you're screwed if you forget about it. Similar reason why this craft has a heat shield on it, even though heating isn't a thing right now. So yeah, the theoretical power source of this ship is RTGs. So the lander has an RTG, and the mothership has, it's either 2 or 4 RTGs around the big round hydrogen tank. I can't remember what symmetry mode I used, but it's a fair amount of them. And yeah, speaking of the big round hydrogen tank, I'm really liking it. It provides an insane amount of delta V. So much so that I'm like, whoa, kind of got enough now to just circularize around Kerbin. So I thought, let's just circularize and make so that we can ensure that we land on the light side of the planet rather than the dark side, so that you guys get a nice visual... It's visually better than you know, re-entering on the dark side. Anyway, the video is coming to a close. I guess there's not much more for me to add, but I hope you enjoyed our little voyage to Eeloo. And guys, to celebrate the fact that you've made it almost half an hour into a video, I'm going to treat you guys to a whiskey review. That's right. I said I stopped these because I ran out of whiskies to try, but I've tried another one recently. I found one on sale in Tesco. Hey, that's harkening back to an early point in the commentary, right? That classic British shop. Yeah, there was a whiskey on sale. It was a Talisker single malt Scotch whiskey aged 10 years. And I gotta say, it's very, very nice. It's distilled on the coastline near Ullinish, which is like the Isle of Skye. And yeah, very, very nice. I'm like trying to get more into Scotch because my friends who are into whiskey all hate the fact that I like American whiskey. They're like, no, that's not real whiskey. Try this, 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 and this. So I'm trying to increase my palate of Scotch whiskey, and this is very nice. I'd say it's a good. I mean, most of the whiskeys I reviewed in my whiskey review series are like, you know, bourbons, so it's hard to compare it because it is a different taste. But I'm liking it. It's very good. And yes, I'm very mindful of the fact that in my AI Val mission, ChatGPT wrote a really, really good whiskey review that was far better than that drivel. But, you know, this is what you get. This is what you pay for. Paid for by the wonderful names on screen. Unironically, very grateful for your support. They're my patrons and channel members. And hey, there's 2 more videos on screen from YouTube that hopefully you'll enjoy if you like them. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you next time.